Because on Yizkor days we remember not only our own loved ones but also teachers and leaders of our community, I want to make known this little book to you. It's called The Gang of Five, and it's about 5 German students, including our own Rabbi Plaut of blessed memory, and how the 5 of them were brought from Europe, from Nazi Europe, and trained at Hebrew Union College in Cincinnati, and how they really went on to shape the Reform movement of North America. And we have a whole box of these books to share with congregants. So if anyone is interested, you're welcome to pick up a gift copy by the security desk at the Ava Road entrance. For those who are saying Kaddish this evening, there'll be a 6 o'clock minyan for you in the youth chapel. In the Herman Chapel at 6 o'clock, just right here. And then at 7 o'clock in the main sanctuary, we have our Simchat Torah celebrations with 7 hakafot and multi-generation celebration with music and dancing with all of our Sifrei Torah. Everyone is welcome. It's really a joyful occasion. And immediately following this service, all are welcome for Kiddush lunch in the Philip Smith Congregational Hall, just outside and through the covered walkway to the other building. This Kiddush lunch is sponsored by Marcia and Ken Cohen in memory of Bernard Carroll and Samuel Braun of blessed memory. You know, our Torah is not a happy ending book. Moses dies in the last chapter. What's worse, he dies just outside of the Promised Land. Tonight for Simchat Torah, I will have the heartbreaking honor of reading the last verses of Deuteronomy, where it is written, Moses went up from the steppes of Moab to Mount Nebo, to the summit of Pisgah opposite Jericho, and the eternal God showed him the whole land, Gilead as far as Dan, all Naphtali, the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, the whole land of Judah as far as the western sea, the Negev and the plain, the valley of Jericho, the city of palm trees, as far as Zoar. And God said to Moses, This is the land of which I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will assign it to your descendants. I have let you see it with your eyes, but you shall not cross over there. This was not Moses' plan. How hard did he work to shepherd our people through the wilderness? 40 years he struggled and strove to keep us together, to keep us true to the task. How courageous was Moses before Pharaoh, how courageous before the shores of the sea, before Mount Sinai shaking with thunder and lightning. We can't help but read these last verses of Torah and feel cheated. Not only cheated on Moses' behalf, but cheated out of our own happily ever after. The brilliance of Torah literature is that it leaves us suspended, on the edge, literally, on the edge, just east of the Jordan River, incomplete, unfulfilled. It could have been written otherwise. It could have tied it all up in a bow for Moses and for us. But it doesn't. So what is the teaching here for us? Especially for those of us who mourn. What direction, if not comfort, can be found in this sad ending? There are at least 3 ways to receive this ending, the end of Moses' life. The first response could be to weep and stay right there in our grief. We could declare a national day of mourning for Moses. Every year when the Torah cycle comes to an end, we could sit down on low chairs and hold a day of Shiva for Moses. In fact, I think it's surprising that we don't. But tonight we will barely take a moment to grieve for Moses before we call up the next Aliyah and read from the very first verses of Bereshit, in the beginning. There is another approach, of course. This second approach, which is our practice with the Torah cycle, that we go back to the beginning all over again. Each year we say, well, the text is the same, but I am not the same. And so we roll the scroll all the way back. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. A fresh start, a new lease on life. We pledge to bring new insight to the text. We pledge to discover new insight from the text. That is the cyclical way that Torah is read in Jewish tradition. But there is a third response to the death of Moses, and that is a linear one. Not cyclical, but linear, saying that we must carry on as best we can without him. This is the path shown to us by way of our Haftarah reading. While the Torah circles back to Genesis, our Haftarah forges ahead beyond the 5 books of Moses and into the first book of the prophets, the book of Joshua. There it is written, after the death of Moses, the servant of the Eternal One, God said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' attendant, my servant Moses is dead, God said. Prepare now to cross the Jordan together with all this people into the land that I am giving to the Israelites. Every spot on which your foot treads I give to you, as I had promised Moses. God's instruction is clear. Moses is dead, and now you are to put one foot in front of the other and carry on with living. Cross over into Eretz Yisrael, the land of the living. God's promise is also clear. Our Haftarah continues, as I was with Moses, so will I be with you, Joshua. I will not fail you nor forsake you. Chazak ve'amatz, be strong and resilient. Let not this book of Torah cease from your lips, but recite it day and night. I charge you, God says, again and again, Chazak ve'amatz, be strong and resilient. Do not be afraid. Do not be dismayed. Ki imcha Adonai Elohecha bechol asher telech, for I will be with you wherever you go. This is God's promise not only to Joshua, who is fearful of life without his mentor Moses, but it is also God's promise to all of us, to all the Israelites who mourn for Moses, their seemingly fearless leader. It could have been otherwise. We could have decided never to leave the site of Moses' burial place on Mount Nebo. We could have camped out there forever at the foot of the mountain, had not God commanded us to get up after 30 days of Shloshim. We may have built a shrine at Moses' burial site. We may have constructed an entire religion out of worshiping the dead, had God not provided us with the emotional strength to pick ourselves up again and pursue our own destiny awaiting us just over the Jordan. Indeed, tonight we will read among the last lines of our Torah, clarifying that to this very day, no one knows the site of Moses' burial place. But we do know the many names and directions of so many of the landmarks in the land of Israel. These future generations are revealed to us so that we can pursue them. We do not leave Moses behind. Only his bones are left on Mount Nebo. But his Torah we take with us. This is the instruction for those who mourn today. We can roll back the Torah scroll and go back to the beginning in the Torah cycle as we do every year. Bereshit bara Elohim. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. That's how it is with the Torah cycle, but that's not how it is in life. There are no do-overs in life. As much as we may wish to hit the refresh button and play it back all over again, that option is not available to us. Our only options are to sit down in our grief at the base of the mountain, a kind of idolatry, to stay there forever, or the other option, to take the Torah of those who walked before us and forge ahead into the land of promise, into a life still so full of promise. How do we take their Torah with us into the land of the living? This is precisely the question we ask on Yizkor days. What was my father's Torah? What was my mother's Torah? What teachings, what wisdom, what admirable character traits did my loved ones gift to me? What core values have they bequeathed to me? And how will I carry them forward with me? With grace and with courage, chazak ve'amatz, with strength and resilience. Sheryl Sandberg is the COO of Facebook and a Facebook friend of mine. I'm one of millions. She's the author of Lean In, a bestseller on women's leadership. And you might recall the news when Sandberg's husband, Dave Goldberg, who was the CEO of SurveyMonkey, died suddenly and without warning, a year and a half ago now. He was 48 years old. Sheryl wrote a Facebook post commemorating the end of Shloshim, the end of the 30 days, reflecting on her grief. It's received so many likes and comments and shares. It was also discussed in Business Insider and in the New York Times, credited with the ability to teach America how to grieve. Sandberg writes the following. I'll share just a few excerpts with you, but it's worth reading the whole piece. She writes, "Today is the end of Shloshim for my beloved husband, the first 30 days. A childhood friend of mine who is now a rabbi recently told me that the most powerful one-line prayer he has ever read is, 'Let me not die while I am still alive.' I would never have understood that prayer before losing Dave, but now I do. I think when tragedy occurs, it presents a choice. You can give in to the void, the emptiness that fills your heart, your lungs, constricts your ability to think or even breathe, or you can try to find meaning. These past 30 days, I have spent many of my moments lost in that void, and I know that many future moments will be consumed by the vast emptiness as well. But when I can, I want to choose life and meaning. I have lived 30 years in these 30 days. I am 30 years sadder. I feel like I am 30 years wiser. I have learned that I never really knew what to say to other people in need. I think I got this all wrong before. I tried to assure people that it would be okay, thinking that hope was the most comforting thing I could offer. But real empathy is sometimes not insisting that it will be okay, rather acknowledging that it is not okay. When people say to me, "You and your children will find happiness again," my heart tells me, yes, I believe that, but I know I will never feel the same pure joy that I used to feel. Those who have said to me instead, "You will find a new normal, but it will never be quite as good," those are the ones who comfort me. They comfort me more because they know and they speak the truth. Even a simple "How are you?" most always asked with the best of intentions, is better replaced with the question, "How are you today?" When I hear, "How are you today?" I realize the person knows that the best I can do right now is to get through each day. I'll give you just a little more. I've learned to ask for help, and I have learned how much help I need. Until now, I have been the older sister, the COO, the doer, and the planner. I did not plan this, and when it happened, I was not capable of doing much of anything. Those closest to me took over. They planned, they arranged, they told me where to sit, and reminded me to eat. I have learned that resilience, chazak ve'amatz, strength and resilience can be learned. Someone taught me that these three things are critical to resilience and that I can work on all three. 1, personalization. 2, permanence. And 3, pervasiveness. Personalization is realizing that it is not my fault. I tell myself over and over, this is not my fault. Permanence is remembering that I won't feel like this forever. This will get better. And pervasiveness. This loss does not have to affect every area of my life. The ability to compartmentalize is healthy. And then she concludes. I was talking to one of my friends about a father-child activity that Dave is not here to do. We came up with a plan to fill in for him, but I cried and I cried and I said, I want Dave. I want option A. My friend put his arm around me and said, well, option A is not available. So let's just kick the heck out of option B. It's not exactly what he said. She continues, Dave, I will honor your memory and raise your children as they deserve to be raised. I promise to do all I can to make the most of option B. And even though Shloshim has ended, I still mourn for option A. I will always mourn for option A. There are at least two kinds of grief. The kind that makes us bitter, hard-hearted, rigid, unable to move from beyond that point of loss at the base of the mountain. And there is another kind of grief, the kind we seek on Yizkor days like today, when we soften our hearts in order that we may find meaning in memory, in order that we might receive blessings which propel us forward into the future, beyond the river, and into the land of the living. Today on Shmini Atzeret we pray livracha velo liklala, for blessing and not for curse. What is a blessing? There's a Hasidic teaching which breaks this word livracha into two smaller words by wordplay. These two little words, newly discovered, are lev raka, a soft heart. Lev raka. So the opposite of a curse is the blessing of having a soft heart, an open heart. For what is love if not the softening of our hearts? What is love for our dead if not opening our arms to this wild world, to the uncertainty of life which swirls about us like the returning winds of winter? What is love if not taking a risk and saying, I will continue to live despite the unknown? I trust in God that there will be blessings for me. Livracha velo liklala, for blessing and not for curse. Amen. L'chaim velo lemavet, for life and not for death. Amen. L'sova velo l'razon, for satisfaction and not for emptiness. Amen.